There's buildings that I bought that have been built completely wrong, super dangerous, big fire hazards. To me, manifesting is like just kind of saying stuff out loud because you never know who's going to be like, oh, I can help you with that. Like, I can help you that. I have the right connection for that. I have a couple of partners on this project and we're all like, yeah, this is it. Like, we knew. And then that night we submitted an offer and like it got accepted. Just from like that one conversation. Yeah. The doors sort of opened up and everything kind of fell into place.
Welcome back to Step by Step with me, Shelby Church. Today we're talking to Soli Cayetano, who by age 26 is part owner of over 50 rental units, and she just opened a boutique hotel in Palm Springs. So we're going to talk about how she's done all this at a relatively young age, everything from her out-of-state real estate investing to opening this hotel here in Palm Springs. Let's get into it. Also, quick note, I did have some audio issues recording this one, so if at times my audio sounds a little bit lower, was kind of a mishap with the audio, but this won't be typical. Future episodes will have the audio crystal clear. All right, so I'm here with Soli of Lattes and Leases. I'm so excited to chat about all your real estate investing endeavors. I actually, right before this, I listened to a podcast that you'd been on because I was like, I don't want to ask just like the same old questions, you know, but I feel like we should touch on how you got started and all of that, and I guess some context. And if you hear any construction, which I don't think it'll pick up too much on these mics, but we're at Soli's hotel that is opening later this week.
So you might hear some stuff in the back.
Yeah. Want to give us a little background?
What podcast did you listen to? How long ago was it?
It was like 2 years ago.
Oh, wow. Okay. So probably like completely different than stuff I'm working on right now.
Yeah. You weren't working on the hotel yet. I think you had like 23 doors, which I think a lot of my audience, this is not like bigger pockets. So I'm like, we got to give more context probably. And even some of it, when I'm listening to them, I'm like, I don't even totally know how this all works. But doors, it's essentially a unit, like a house or
like a duplex would be like two doors or 2 units. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So where are you at now in your real estate investing journey?
Yeah. So, I mean, I own probably like around 50 units, just all combined between like ones I own by myself with maybe one partner, and then this hotel, which is 13 units. But I started back in 2020 during the pandemic. So I was in college and I was going into being like a commercial real estate broker. So I was leasing office space and I was about to start full time. It was fully commission. And when the pandemic hit, I was like, how am I supposed to lease office space during a pandemic?
No, like no one's
looking for office space.
And that's a tough industry to break into too, commercial real estate, I've heard.
It is. I feel like it's either your family kind of like introduces you to the industry, or you just like happen to fall into it. And I kind of just like happened to fall into it when I was a sophomore in college and I like needed a paycheck. I was part of my school's real estate association. And then I basically like was offered an internship sophomore year. So I really, really loved it, but it was just like a really hard industry. And it still kind of is still sort of recovering because everyone's kind of remote work, hybrid work, not going back to work. It was just really challenging in 2020 because I was like, this is my career. It's 100% commission. But I could be making like $0 for the foreseeable future. And so I decided to kind of like take things into my own hand. I had saved up about $50,000 from working for 3 years in brokerage. And so I decided to go out and buy a rental property.
Yeah. So you had closed some deals in the commercial real estate industry.
Yes.
While you were in college, right?
Yeah. No one knew I was in college. I don't think so.
I mean, dang, that's like a lot to juggle, like college and then working this job.
Yeah. I was almost pretty much like working full time senior year, but like I loved it. It was so fun. I was given so much responsibility. I was on like a big corporate account. And so the amount of deals I did a lot of deals, like probably like 100 deals before I graduated college. It was a really good experience, especially for like investing out of state. So I'm based in the Bay Area. I was born and raised in the Bay Area. And I bought my first rental property in Cincinnati, Ohio. 2,500 miles away. It's kind of random. But when I was doing like brokerage deals, that was one of the places that I went to for work. And I kind of saw, I was like, whoa, like full new world. Yeah. The houses are $100,000. Like that's crazy.
Insane compared to California.
Mm-hmm. because my houses around me were like $1 million for a little shoebox sort of thing. And so when I was out for work, I met someone who mentioned that he had a couple rental properties. And then I remembered him in 2020 and I was like, maybe I'll go talk to him. Yeah. And he kind of walked me through the market, introduced me to some like real estate agents, and that ended up being my first deal.
And for that deal, how much did you need to put down? Do you remember like the price of the house?
Yeah, it was $98,000 and I put 20% down. So like roughly $20,000 plus closing costs. And then I put about like $15,000 into the renovation. So I had like 50 and I think I spent maybe like $40,000. But to me, kind of felt like my whole life savings that I worked kind of 3 years for.
Were you nervous? Like, oh my gosh, like Ohio.
I flew out there and I saw it and I attempted to renovate. Didn't go that well. I was nervous, but I think that for me, I was sort of like worst case scenario, I lose my $40,000 and I'm kind of back where most 22-year-olds are. And so it's not the worst thing ever, but it still felt like doing something like kind of crazy. Yeah. And I think everyone was like, you did what? Like you went and bought what? Yeah. It's just like not a traditional path of like things to do.
But I do think that sometimes is kind of the smart place to be in a way, like before things blow up. You know what I mean? Like now I think investing in the Midwest is more popular, but back then I didn't hear about it. I didn't know that was like a thing people were doing. And so getting into things before they're like really saturated, I feel like that's smart.
I feel like I hit it at the right time too, because interest rates were like 3%. And I think Bigger Pockets has been a big influence in showing people that you can invest in real estate. So now a lot of people know about investing in real estate. But back in the day, like 2020, it wasn't as crazy as it is today. There weren't as many people teaching it. And interest rates just allowed you to get like crazy deals.
Yeah, definitely a good time. I wonder now, like, do you still look at investing out there, or does it not make as much sense with today's interest rates?
It still does. I bought a deal. I think it's harder to find deals these days, but it's just a different environment. So like back in 2020, sure, interest rates were really cheap, but the market was so competitive.
Right.
It was like essentially free to borrow money. And so every deal was like crazy competitive. If you can remember, it was like, oh, this is selling $100,000 above asking price, all cash, like no contingencies, no inspections, no nothing. And I feel like as a new investor, like that was also kind of intimidating because I like didn't have a bunch of money. I didn't know what I was doing. Everything went off the market in one day.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
It's just different. I think we remember like the good old days. Yeah. But I mean, there were pros and cons to investing then. And then now interest rates are like triple what they were. Well, I guess maybe 2.5 times what they were. So it's harder to find cash flow, but you can find some like incredible deals right now.
Yeah, that makes sense. I actually got my real estate license recently.
Oh, congratulations.
I have some listings and I've talked with my broker. Like if you're not familiar with the real estate industry, if you're an agent, there's a broker above you. So you have to join a brokerage. And it's definitely slower right now. Like listings are sitting for longer. So it's like you aren't competing with as many people when you make an offer, which is a nice trade-off. And it's like you could refinance later. So
yeah, and there's like plenty of people who are unrealistic with their pricing, and so they price it too high, and then it sits on the market for like 90 days, and then they're like the listing gets stale, as you probably know, and then at that point you can make some really aggressive offers, and you can get some like incredible deals. That's like unheard of in 2020 days.
It's interesting because what I've noticed too is a lot of sellers, they're not desperate to sell. And so some of them, they're just like, I want this price, and if I don't get it, whatever. Because they have a low interest rate, maybe they're breaking even. They want to get out of the deal if they can for the right price, but it's not like 2008 when, you know, people were hurting. They were like underwater. They had to sell. And so I'm like, okay, it's interesting. There are some people for sure who it's like they want out bad enough that they'll take the lower price. And I think people are afraid to even like lowball sometimes.
Oh, but for sure. Yeah. And I think agents are also afraid to lowball sometimes. I feel like the investment space, like the type of deals that we typically target are like ones that homeowners are not targeting. They're like, they need huge renovations. Like the last one I bought was $130,000 for a duplex. Yeah. and it needed $110,000.
That's so
So-
interesting that it's like the renovations are like the cost of the house almost.
But that deal appraised like a couple weeks ago for like $425.
Oh, wow. So
Yeah.
it's super worth it.
It's super worth it. And I think that was like a great deal, a big renovation. But most homeowners are not going to be like, yeah, I want to take this house down to the studs and put in $110,000. It's different. It's like a different market. I think there's a lot of talk about like, oh, investors are buying up our like housing stock. But most of what we buy are either like commercial deals like this, where this hotel was sitting vacant for 2 years. Or it's a duplex that needs $110,000 renovation.
Yeah, that was one thing I wanted to talk about because I get a lot of comments, less now, but there was definitely a phase of people like Airbnb was in the media, people are hating on it, and they're like calling me this Airbnb landlord, like I'm an evil person for my one Airbnb. And I was wondering if you get comments like that of like buying out of state, like people
all the time.
backlash about that. Yeah.
Only when videos go viral though, because I feel like that's when you know it's like, wow, let's hit the wrong audience.
Yeah.
But every time a video goes viral, it's like, you are the scum of the earth. But again, like we're buying a lot of properties that nobody would buy otherwise and are just going to kind of sit vacant or like have dangerous, like there's buildings that I've bought that have been built completely wrong, super dangerous, big fire hazards. And we've had to like take it down to the studs and back up.
Yeah.
So it's like just a different product than the average homeowner is buying.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that makes sense. Yeah, I can see both sides because, like, I've thought about it. I'm like, oh, if people from, I don't know, New York were just buying places in LA and it boosted the price, then I would be like, dang. But
also good for the homeowners because all the homeowners are now getting like their equity is increasing because their home values are going up. So
it's just the people who haven't bought that are, oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's like unaffordable now. But like that is how I guess the world works in general. Like areas get nicer, things get unaffordable. Austin blows up, Nashville blows up, and then like the ancillary towns end up getting more expensive too.
I know. I've been thinking because I always see people say online, they're like, we need affordable housing in California. And I'm like, I've researched this so much and I'm like, I just don't think there will ever be affordable housing in LA, honestly, because the land is so expensive. And that's just the reality of it. Like the supply and demand. It's like, okay, if land costs $1 million and there's not even a house there, how can you build affordable? You could build the cheapest house and it's still going to be over $1 million.
So I was just talking to someone actually like a couple days ago and they were talking about how affordable housing development is actually one of the most like crazy profitable places to be.
Oh, really?
Because there's so many government grants and subsidies that allow you to build affordable, essentially not for free, but like way discounted.
Yeah.
So affordable developers can actually afford to pay more for properties than market rate housing because they get all of these grants that then help like subsidize their build.
Oh, wow.
So it doesn't make sense if there's no subsidies, but because there's so many grants and subsidies right now, they can build like insane, like for their costs, it's super cheap and they can build affordable housing.
That's cool. Yeah, it's interesting in LA. It's like a lot of new apartment buildings, they have to have a certain amount affordable. I believe it's a lottery system for people to get in. And I've toured some like luxury apartments and I'll be like, oh, I'll walk by a unit and be like, why does that one have carpet? And they're like, oh, that's the affordable one.
Interesting.
Finishes
different.
Cheaper.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's still a very nice building. And I think, I want to say even the cabinets are the same. I think it's just like carpet for whatever reason, which I think is weird because it's like, I mean, is it really that much more expensive to do like the luxury vinyl plank, which is much more durable? So I'm like, okay, they're going to have to redo the carpet like every couple of years, but I don't know. Maybe it must be cheaper if they're doing that. I'm sure they know what they're doing. But yeah, I think it's interesting. But yeah, I want to talk about the hotel too, because this is like a big jump from investing in houses or even multifamily duplexes.
So I was like 4 years into, I like to call it like boring investments, like long-term rentals. I do some like traveling nurse rentals, but they're all like relatively boring. And like I'm a very risk averse person in general. And so I wanted to kind of build like a base of boring cash flow before I ended up taking like a bigger risk, which is like per se hotel investing. And so after 4 years, I was like, I'm going to try to like switch to something a little bit more fun and creative. I think after a while it gets a little redundant. Some people love the redundancy because it's like great and it's the system like keeps on chugging, super predictable. Yeah. But for me, I think I'm just like maybe a little bit more of a creative person. And so I was like itching to do something a little bit more exciting.
Yeah, this is super creative. It's like you get to really have fun with the design versus a rental property, like you're not furnishing it.
Yeah, even really. Midterm rentals, like for nurse rentals, you are furnishing it, but it's like very kind of like utilitarian.
There's no incentive to like really make it cool. Whereas
right.
a hotel, it's like you got to make the design really cool.
Yeah, like that's the whole point. It's like the experience of it. Yeah. And so like we built a Himalayan salt sauna here, and I feel like that would have been like there's just no reason to build that in any other rental property.
Yeah, it would never make sense. Yeah.
But for here, it makes like total sense to do that. So I was at this hotel. No, I was at this like random mastermind event. I was sitting next to this girl and I was talking to her about how I really wanted to like get into hotels. And she was like, oh my gosh, I own a hotel. It's in Palm Springs. Have you been to Yara?
I haven't been, but I've seen it.
It's super cute. Yeah.
I think I follow them. I think we follow each other on like Instagram.
Yeah. So I was sitting next to her. It's like a boho kind of like Bali-esque sort of vibe. And she was like, oh, I just bought it like a year ago. It's doing amazing. Like, do you want an introduction to our broker? I'll help you out. And so I was like, yeah, like, I guess the universe.
Stars aligning.
I know. Yeah. I feel like that's to me like true manifesting.
Yeah. Well, I saw you like put a cutout of a wellness hotel somewhere, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like.
It was like my someday vision board. And then I think that like to me manifesting is like just kind of like saying stuff out loud because you never know who's going to be like, oh, I can help you with that. Like I can help you that. I have the right connection for that. And so she introduced me to her broker in Palm Springs. And then I think within like 2 weeks flew out here for the first time ever. So I'd never been to Palm Springs and I didn't even look up a picture before I flew in, and I thought it was just going to be like Joshua Tree, like flat.
Oh my gosh, no, it's so.
I got here and I was like, and we're looking at like the mountain right now. And I was like, what? This is like not at all what I expected. Yeah. It was super cute. I think it was in maybe March or April, like busy season. And then and I remember this was the first property we toured on our like tour of maybe 5 or 6 different hotels. And I have a couple of partners on this project and we're all like, yeah, this is it. Like we knew. And then that night we submitted an offer and like it got accepted.
Wow, that's awesome. You're like, okay, we're doing a hotel.
I know. It was like so crazy. It was like just from like that one conversation, the doors sort of opened up and everything kind of fell into place. And then we closed on this in June and it's January right now. So it was about 6.5 months of construction, like all the way down to the studs. We built a new lobby. We like completely changed the whole hotel. So it was like it's been like a whirlwind, crazy fast renovation.
Yes. And I can say, you guys, it looks amazing. I stopped by during construction in like August or something. And I was like, I see the vision now coming here. I'm like, this is so cool.
There was like no water in the pool. Like it was like 115 degrees.
So I'm like, okay, I get it.
You like see the vision. You see the vision. Yeah.
But okay, so when you guys were like you closed on it and everything, were you like, whoa, okay, this is like a big risk? Or how did you feel about it? Did you have a good feeling?
So I have 3 other partners. 2 of them are architects and one of them is like handles finance and like underwriting. Yeah. And I handled like the whole direction of the hotel. A lot of our partnerships are like spa offerings, our different amenities, that sort of thing. And I worked like very closely with the architects to do that. So although I can do underwriting, I don't feel like underwriting is like my cup of tea now. It's funny because I was a finance major. That's all I did when I was in brokerage was like underwriting deals. But now that I feel like I'm removed from it, I'm like, I'm okay with giving that up. Yeah.
And for context for people not in real estate, underwriting is basically like looking at the numbers and making sure it makes sense.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Yeah. And so the person who was in charge of finance is like even more conservative than me. And then like did the whole analysis and checked the numbers and like felt really good about it. So I feel like if he feels comfortable with it, like I feel comfortable with it. We were very conservative with our numbers. And so like, just for example, I feel like ADR is like maybe too specific for the channel, but like our ADR was $250, which is pretty low. It's like
the nightly rent.
Pretty much. It's like an average daily rate of $250, which is pretty low. It's like kind of like a mid-tier-ish sort of rate for Palm Springs, which can get really nice.
And it so varies on like the time of year and weekends and stuff. Yeah.
And then when we were doing our deal analysis, we didn't incorporate like any alcohol revenue, and we have a full bar. We didn't incorporate any spa services. And that's actually like very popular to get spa services here. If you're going to come here and you're going to come to a wellness hotel, you're probably going to get a massage inside of your stay. And so like we didn't incorporate any of that, any of our mini bars, and we have like pretty extensive mini bars here too. Yeah. And so we felt like
very cool. I will say it's not just like Sprite and stuff. It's like fun drinks.
We have some like non-alcoholic cocktails in there, which are very popular.
No, I love that there's kombucha. Like,
yeah,
I feel like you get it. Like, you get the more modern take on a hotel that I feel like our generation wants.
Yeah, you know? Because I always, when I go to like Erewhon or like Whole Foods, I always get myself a fun drink to like treat myself. And so I wanted to like source the fun drinks that I get at Whole Foods or Erewhon that just has like cool things.
Yeah, that's really cool.
All of our deal analysis was like to the most conservative. And then we've already seen, because we've kind of launched the hotel, we've had some guests stay. Our nightly rates are actually like far above that because we designed it to be kind of like, my friend calls it laid back luxury. Like it's not like stuffy luxury. But it's sort of like the accessible, like our generation luxury where
not like the Four Seasons where you feel like you need to dress up to walk in the lobby.
Right. Yes.
But like a really nice room and you can be casual, but it's still luxurious.
And you can like wear your robe and the finishes are cute and you kind of want to see like where they got it from sort of thing. So that's kind of what we were going for. And our nightly rates are like pretty high above what we thought they were going to be, and the demand is still there. And so I think in seeing some of that, like we have a hotel consultant who has been helping us because like obviously this is a huge jump. So we had to hire some like mentors and help to kind of guide us. Smart.
It's like a little bit of money up front to probably save you a lot or make you a lot more later.
Tons. Yes. Like in operate, because it's a business. It's like so much more a business than your average real estate deal. You buy a rental property, you hire a property manager, and like that's it. You kind of like check on your property sometimes, but for a hotel, we have a general management staff, we have cleaners. It's not passive at all.
Essentially. Like
yes, we have food, we have a full bar. There's a lot of things that go on here, and so like hiring a consultant was probably one of the best things that we did to kind of help us with like our nightly rates and our design and like making sure that we thought about different things in different places.
What have the nightly rates been like so far since opening?
So it's January, so it's like the start of the high season. We're getting kind of like $400 per night. So bigger rooms are like can go on the weekends up to like $750, $800. Yeah, so during high season, there's some rooms that get even like $800, $900.
I saw some on the website that were like lower though, like $100 or $200 maybe for like opening if it's like.
We just reduced them because we have no reviews.
Oh,
yeah. And so like literally just a few days ago, we reduced them just to get like people in the door to be leaving like Airbnb reviews. And so it's sort of just like to get people in the door and leaving reviews. But our actual rates during the week, some of them are like $200, but on the weekends, especially when you get into like Indian Wells or like Coachella, Stagecoach, like that's when you see like the $750, $800 nights.
I will say I've noticed Coachella the last year, it was like not as much because the lineup wasn't that good. And we're actually pretty far from Coachella. And so people want to stay like right in Indio. And so the nightly rate was basically like normal last year.
Fascinating.
The previous years it would be like Coachella sells out. There's all this overflow. People need to stay in Palm Springs. But yeah, this year we did get a booking sooner. And I think it was a little more like $900 a night. But usually it would be like double. But I don't know. It's so dependent on the lineup and how many people want to go to Coachella. I feel like overall it's like less popular than it used to be.
Interesting. But, here, I think people like for hotels at least, you get business buyouts. And so there's a brand like a skincare company or a fashion company who wants to bring out influencers.
There's so many events that time. Yeah.
And that's who stays at the boutique hotels. And so they like brand it their own. They'll have their own activations.
This is perfect for that.
Yeah, so that's why we were talking to the owners of Yara and like they had a huge buyout last year from a skincare company who then like rebranded their hotel to be their own and then booked influencers in the rooms. And so that's kind of what we're looking for, is like some sort of like health and wellness company who wants to host like activations for Stagecoach. And I think some of them prefer to stay in Palm Springs. It's a little bit more like low key and a little nicer than like staying next to the festival.
There are, I will say, in the past years I've gone, all the events are in Palm Springs, except for like Revolve festivals like right by. It's because there's not as many hotels like this in Indio. Like, Indio's actually pretty like rural.
It's like, getting there though. I feel like it's getting there.
Yeah, it's got some like bigger like HOA communities and stuff and like golf courses, but there's not like the downtown like Palm Springs. So yeah, a lot of the brands will do events up over here, and so like that weekend people are kind of just driving all over.
Right. So that's kind of what we're like looking for though, is more so there's so many health and wellness companies from San Diego and Los Angeles who might be looking to do some sort of like brand activation. I think it's like the perfect size where you can find like, we've had like parties here. It's like my 50th birthday party. Like I want to have it here. We just got that one this morning, but because it's like when you go to an Airbnb that sleeps 28, then usually there's like 3 rooms that have 2 sets of bunk beds.
Yeah, it's like not as comfortable.
Yeah, and you're like sharing bathrooms, and like the older you get, the more you're like, I kind of just want to close my door and like not see everyone.
Even like brand trips, I've gone on some where they got an Airbnb and then it's awkward because some of the rooms are better and whatever. Yeah. People ended up getting like annoyed. What I've realized is like, just if any brand person is watching, it's like just book hotel rooms for people. There's less like chaos or potential for.
And then if you want to like go to sleep, like you can go to sleep. Yeah. Where if you're in an Airbnb, it's like, guys, can you please stop talking? Like I'm trying to sleep.
And I know for this project, you've shared some of the numbers, like the cost of the hotel before renovations was like a little under $3 million.
Yeah, it was listed for 3 and we got it for 2.75 million.
Nice for 13 doors,
units. Yes. No, it's called keys in hotels.
Keys. I like it better. And then how much did you guys spend on the renovations? Because it's an extensive, very nice renovation.
Yeah, about like 1.2.
I feel like that's good for. Like,
a lot of our friends who have done like big renovations for hotels have come here and been like, this looks like a $4 million renovation.
Yeah, you're right. It looks super nice.
I think it's all about like working with an architect and like strategic design and like knowing where to spend money, where to invest money, where to not invest money.
Yeah, like you have good partners.
Yes, exactly.
So like all in, it's like
it's like $4 million.
Did you guys raise money or did you guys kind of just partner and buy it?
We raised money. So we did like what's called a syndication. So we like pulled investor money from a couple different people. And then we did like a formal syndication, like an SEC regulated syndication where they're all equity owners of this project. So it's kind of fun. I think when we were pitching for investors, like while we were under contract, people were just like so excited about the concept. I've raised a lot of money in the past for my other deals. And that's how I grew like the rest of my portfolio, was like through private investors, mostly from like Instagram that I built relationships with.
And that's so smart. I feel like people aren't usually doing that, but it's like you've documented all the stuff you've done on your Instagram. And so people are like, trust you more than just some random person.
They really do. And that was a sort of like a side benefit of starting a social media page, was all of the raising money part of it. Like I did not intend for that to be a big benefit of creating a personal brand, but the more you share, the more people are like, how do I get involved? How do I invest? The more you talk about how you raise money, the more people are like, want to give you money. The world is just like full of people who have money and who don't actually want to do it themselves. And people have money for different reasons. Like maybe they just sold their house that they bought, I don't know, 20 years ago, and then they like don't know what to do with the money because they never learned how to invest. Or like maybe they were like employed for 40 years and then they have like a big retirement account and they like don't know what to do with it. Yeah. And so I would say like even our average investor isn't like a multimillionaire. They're just like a regular person who has been like working for 10, 20 years and just like has extra money and wants to feel like they're part of something.
Yeah, it is definitely more fun, I guess, than putting your money in the stock market. I'm interested how it works with that kind of deal because I know obviously this is a ton of work for you. It's like you have sweat equity in it, I would assume. Like, did you have to put money into the deal, or is your part of it the sweat equity of like doing all this work?
We put some money into it, but mostly like, so the way that it was split up, and there's different ways to structure. There's like an infinite amount of ways to structure deals. This particular one, we did 20% to the team who put the deal together. So called general partners, like the four of us got 20% equity just for like sweat equity. And then 80% goes to the limited partners or the investors. So you'll see like 70-30, 80-20, 60-40, depending on how the numbers kind of like shake out. It was our first hotel deal and we wanted to give our investors like a great deal. Yeah. So we're build the relationships, kind of like this was our like portfolio piece. We can do it. We had a opening party. I don't even know when that was, like a week ago, 2 weeks ago, where we invited our investors to see it. And they were all like, oh my gosh, like this is so amazing. I got to stay at our own hotel. Like I own part of it.
Like the dream. I'm like, okay, the next one you do, call me. Let's find a tennis court hotel.
That'd be so fun.
Yeah. And I think it's like smart too, because it's like Airbnbs are so restricted here in Palm Springs, but hotels you can make
you can do whatever you want. So that's kind of where it is. It's like places with the biggest restrictions are the best for hotels. And so I thought it was actually going to be like harder to raise money for this project because it's riskier. Like hotels are riskier than multifamily. In general, and it's like very dependent on the operator, so they have to trust so much in your ability to run a hotel. It's not just like a property that someone rents for 12 months. It's like it is a true business. And so but I thought it was actually relatively easy, like way easier than I expected.
Because of the following, probably. I
think that a lot of people have trusted me because I've shown them, like we had a lot of repeat investors from other projects come in and invest in this project as well, kind of saying like, okay, we've done short-term deals with you for years. Let's do a 5 to 7 year deal together in this project. And then also just like wanting to be part of a bigger vision. I think everyone loves wellness right now too. It's just like a growing industry.
It's exciting. It's like, because obviously this is a podcast, you guys can't see, but there's like a cold plunge, there's a rain room. I feel like I can tell you're passionate about it because you literally went to Italy to go like experience a Himalayan salt room to like bring that here, which is so unique. And like I don't think any other hotel in Palm Springs has that. So
I don't think they do. And the rain room actually came from a spa in Milan too. I don't know if you've ever seen the viral rain room.
I think because of you, I looked it up.
It's in like the QC Terme Milano.
The QC spas look really cool.
They're crazy. Like they're so cool. And so I went because one of my followers sent it to me. And I was like, ooh, I wonder if we can put this in our hotel. And then I went to go experience it. And there's just like 360 LED screens and like the clouds roll in and you're getting like dumped on. Like it's probably 10 times the size of ours.
Oh my gosh, wow.
It's very immersive. The clouds come in. You're in like sitting in a hot tub like up to your waist.
I like
that.
Yeah,
it's interesting. Yeah. And it kind of drizzles and pours and like drizzles again. So we have like a baby version of that, but it's like one of the most popular things that people do here is like and it goes hot or cold. So you're in there and you can take like a really steamy rain shower in there, and the shower head's like ginormous.
That's so cool. I feel like that's a good social media like viral marketing
so good. Yeah.
Especially because it's like things that people haven't done in Palm Springs, because there are a ton of hotels here, but I feel like you guys have found ways to differentiate.
There's no wellness hotels though. This is the only wellness hotel in like the downtown Palm Springs area. There's Two Bunch Palms.
Yeah, but I've heard that's actually not that nice.
I love Two Bunch Palms. Yeah, I like it. It's in Desert Hot Springs though. So Desert Hot Springs is like maybe 25-ish, 30 minutes away. And so there's a bunch of like kind of niche, a lot of like colonic hotels out there, but then you're in Desert Hot Springs and there's like nothing out there.
For people, for context, Desert Hot Springs, not the Palm Springs vibe at all. It is, I would say,
it's deserty, but it's
the wind, like the sand is gonna like come in your backyard type of thing.
It's really windy out there, and so it's not developed, and there's not
as nice. Like I'll just be honest, like the houses aren't as like cute mid-century modern.
Yes, But in terms of like I guess in the downtown Palm Springs area, there's really not much wellness.
Yeah.
People have kind of like leaned into more of like the mid-century vibes, more so than they have like any other vibes. Like Yara was the first sort of like Balinese hotel out here, and I think that's kind of why, like, really not mid-century, but they did really well because of that. People were kind of looking for like a unique sort of stay out here, and so this is like also very not traditional Palm Springs. But I do think just people are interested in general in wellness and want to like come escape stress, like, and what better way to do that than being in a rain room?
And it's a good location. You can walk to stuff, which I think is really cool. Yeah, I feel like you'll get a ton of people from LA coming and staying.
That's like our primary market: LA, San Diego, Seattle.
But you'll be shocked, like in the winter, it's like
Canadians,
all these people from the cold places come into town because of course they want to escape that colder weather for a little bit. And then I noticed like summer people from LA because they just want a little weekend trip, and it's less expensive usually. The rates are lower.
Way lower. Because it's like 115 degrees. So
but I still think it's a vibe. You know what's crazy is I found this last year, October and November were very slow, like across the board for everyone. This is such a nice time to be here.
It's like super empty. It's not that hot.
It's not. It's like springtime.
You can get a reservation, or you can walk into any restaurant without a reservation. And now that it's January, because I moved here in June, and I kind of experienced like the summer, the fall. Now we're in the winter. Now it's the start of high season, and everyone's kind of like here.
It's busy now.
It's really busy.
Open, though,
it is a great time,
because this is like peak rates you're about to get, which is great.
Exactly.
I'm curious, when you guys set up these kinds of deals, how long the limited partners intend to be in it, because I think a lot of times they kind of set that at the beginning, or if you guys want to hold on to it forever or sell, or like do you have a plan for that kind of thing?
The business plan is to sell it in 5 to 7 years. I think that a lot of people have asked us, because funny enough, like some people want their money back and some people never want it back, because then they're going to have to figure out what to do with it again.
Right.
And so
in the meantime, they'll get a check every so often.
Yeah, they get a quarterly distribution they get a preferred return. So the first money comes in, it goes straight to investors up to a certain point, depending on like what class of share you have. And then you get like a big pop when we refinance and then when we sell. So at refinance, there'll be a new valuation depending on our rates, how much money we make, and then they'll get some of their money back. And then at sale, they get like the lion's share of what they'll make is like at that sale.
Yeah. Because when you refinance, it's like you can take cash out.
Right. So say that we're all in for like, what did I say, $4 million. Say it appraises at like 6 or 6.5 or $7 million, $8 million. Then you're able to take a loan out for, depending on like what, I think we'll probably be like maybe 70% loan to value or so, maybe a little bit less because it's a hotel asset. There's limited lenders who lend on hotels.
Right. Oh, I bet. It's like not like buying a house, like there's only a certain amount.
Yeah. So this hotel used to be a gay clothing optional hotel.
Oh yeah, there are some of those here.
There's a lot of them here, but it was specifically for bare men. So like, have you heard of that?
Oh yeah, wait, you guys, this is like, there's literally a bear convention that comes.
Is there really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so funny.
A giant inflatable bear. Me and Monica were like, what is that? Like we were driving. So yeah, a bear is
like a bigger, hairier
gay man.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
yeah. So I didn't know this was a thing but the hotel used to be called Barefoot Inn.
Oh,
but spelled
gosh.
BEAR.
Oh my God, that's really funny.
For bear men.
Yeah.
And so when we bought it, it was like the owners previously had bought it from the owners that operated it as the Barefoot Inn. But then when we bought it, it had been shut down for 2 years. Oh. And so there were very few lenders who wanted to like touch that because it's a hotel. It's non-operational. There's no income. It's like, and it was like a nude clothing optional resort. Like there's a lot of things where you're like, well, I don't know if I want to touch that.
But it's such a good location. And
like, so after there's a bunch of like, you have at least a year of revenue, like it's a little bit easier to get financing. So when then you refinance, you can pull a bunch of money out, pay back some investors, and then they get some of their money back until we actually sell the property.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then, so now that this is almost open, Are you still going to be having to do a lot day to day for it? Or are you kind of looking for your next project?
Yeah, so we have a general management staff that does take on a lot of the like the day-to-day management. I think as an owner, you're still involved in kind of like high level reviewing financials, guiding branding, guiding marketing. That's kind of my job, is like, what promotions are we running? Like, can we do some sort of like Valentine's Day thing or like that type of thing? But after this is stabilized, we'll end up looking for another hotel. I think what we learned is that 13 is a little small for a full staff. Because we have like 2 general managers, like 3 cleaners, we have 3 massage therapists on staff.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
like
it's
salary basically.
So California employment law is pretty strict, where they want them to be employed like actual employees and not contractors.
Oh, I didn't know that for
even massage therapists. If you tell them, like, I forgot what they said, but it was like, if you're dictating the menu and the prices, they're employees, not contractors.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, that kind of makes sense. Yeah.
And telling them what to wear and when to show up and like your systems, your processes.
Like, they are an employee at that point.
Yeah. And so like that's been really interesting to figure out, like, just all of that side of things, employment laws part of things. But the overhead for employees is like pretty high for 13 rooms. But if you could have maybe like 20 or 25 rooms, you could probably have the same staff, but just have like a higher profit margin. So we're probably going to look for something that's more in like the 20 to 30 to maybe 40 unit range, range in Palm Springs, just to have some more like economies of scale between the 2 properties. And then past that, I don't know. I mean, I think it's good to diversify, especially with hotels.
Is there another city that you're interested in?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, maybe like a Tahoe, like an all seasons, like Tahoe place, or I don't know, somewhere that has like a similar vibe to Palm Springs. Like, what I like about Palm Springs is that there's a lot of luxury here. So it supports higher room rates. Like, there are really nice hotels here, and there's people with a lot of money. And so you're not kind of capped off on like what luxury is. We looked at another hotel in Estes Park, Colorado. Have you ever been?
No, I haven't even heard of it.
It's like next to the national park. It's maybe like an hour outside of Boulder. But luxury out there is like cabins in the woods. So we wanted to make a really nice concept, and we were going to build geodomes on that piece of land. But it was kind of like, okay, well, they're already at the top of the market, and it's a cabin that's not renovated. So it's hard to like take a risk like that. And also like an area that hasn't been like infiltrated with wellness, like Sedona, which is just like
Sedona is amazing.
Which is amazing, but there's so many nice wellness hotels out there. So like, where is the next Sedona? I'm not sure, but we'll be looking for it.
Palm Springs is a great spot to be. And one thing too that I think people don't take into account is the fact that a lot of boomers like to come here. And they have money. But there's a lot of things geared towards people in their 50s and 60s with money. I've noticed a lot of the people who book my house are older, because people who are in their 20s or 30s, it might be cool, it might be glamorous, but it's like they don't have as much money as someone who's worked for 30, 40 years already and invested for all this time and like looking to enjoy themselves.
And they actually make great investors. We've met a bunch of people like that too, who kind of stop by and are like, oh, I love it. Like, can I invest in your next deal?
Oh, that's awesome.
And everyone's kind of moving to like the warm weather states. So
I know you have to get going, but I will link your Instagram below if anyone wants to check out Terra or check out your Instagram, because I know you'll be doing other projects in the future. I'm like, please save a spot for me. I want to find a tennis.
I know. You know what the problem with tennis is that tennis courts take up a lot of space.
Yeah, everyone wants pickleball.
And it's more so that if you're like in downtown region and you have a tennis court, there's probably a higher and best use for that. Where
there so is. It's
if
like
you take out the tennis court, because you could build a lot. And so
I have an idea. Okay. Well, I guess this isn't great here because it's so hot, but they do some rooftop courts. Quick little cut if you're watching the video, ran out of space, so we had to switch. But we're finishing up here. But what a lot of people do, and if you ever do like a more, I don't know, maybe a slightly colder climate, rooftop tennis courts. You can also have lines for pickleball too, so people can book it for that.
Yeah, that's a good idea. We even have we reinforced this deck out here. You can't see it, but so that we could have a future rooftop deck for this unit.
Cool. Oh,
yeah.
wow. That's so
It would be really cool. So future project.
Cool. Okay. Well, this has been very interesting, insightful. Thanks for sharing all the info.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. And I'm like, I want to stay at Terra soon. I know it's like, for me, it's like staycation.
Yeah. It's like down the street from your house.
That's going to be it for today. And I'll see you guys in the next podcast. Bye.